I've probably tricked you into clicking on this video thinking it was about a grapple. It sort of is, but it's more about being generous. But it's about tithing also. Tithing is God saying, I gave you everything. Prove your love to me with your obedience. Put your trust in me. Trust that I'm going to keep my word. Give me 10% and watch me pour my blessings back out on you. And most people cannot just take 10% of their paycheck and give it to somebody else. I know I couldn't. I sure couldn't. I'm a super selfish person. Most people cannot do that, and they never get to that level of blessings that gets unlocked when you start putting your faith in God. Now, before I tell you about this, I'm going to tell you a different story that really kind of set this in motion. We've always tithed. We've always given money, but I was at a church. Lots of my friends were like 70, 80 years old. And I was, you get invited to churches when you hang out with old Southern people. So, and if you don't go, it's a little bit disrespectful at some point. So I was visiting to see my old buddy Jackie, and my wife started to write a check for the tithe when the plate went around. So my wife started to write a check, and we only owed the Lord $50 for a $500 week of income. And she wrote a check for $100, and I saw it, and I almost corrected her, and then I thought to myself, what are you doing? You don't like shortchange God. You know, if you can afford to give him $100, you ought to. So I kept my mouth shut. The next day, I got a $5,000 check in the mail. For me and my wife gave extra to God. The next day, he gave us more than tenfold. He gave us much, much more. And it was real. That money came and went. It's been spent. It was real. This grapple was given to me for free. I'm not kidding. Brand new rotate motor in it, given to me for free by a good fellow that I just met for the first time, but we've been friends, online friends, not to sound gay or anything, online friends for quite some time, and he's really been a mentor to me. He's about 4 hours north of me, and he runs skidders. He's a logger. He's a phenomenal logger, and probably one of the best cutters I've ever met in person. And he said, come take this grapple. And I'm like, yeah, no. How much you got to get for it? No, come and take it. It's like, I can't take that. You got to sell it. Oh, no, I've tried to sell it. Nobody wanted it. Come and take it. Well, thanks, man. I'll come get up there someday. I wasn't going to go until I had the money. It probably was a year or two before I actually had the money. And I go up there, and he refused to take any money for it. Then he puts a 462C. It needs a jug, but he puts a beautiful 462C steel in my truck. Won't take any money for it. And then probably the thing I'm most excited about is one of them logger tapes. I've never had one of them good logger tapes. He just gave it to me. I had plenty of cash. I had sold some stuff on the way up. The trip up was a transaction in a different state, and then like a round trip with that cash to come and give it to him for this. He refused to take it. So I went and I bought some tires related to this grapple, because this grapple is going to go on this backhoe. This backhoe, it's got 1,600 hours on it when the machine burned. I've got the front end loader and the backhoe, and it's a pin on. It takes 4 pins. As far as I can tell, the dangle link, the rotator dangle on that grapple will go right on that end. I'll have the spare spool. I need to add one more spool and one more pair of A&B hoses for the rotator, but that cylinder will give up the 2 hoses for the open and close the jaws, and then I just need to add one more auxiliary. I could even probably do it with a DC splitter at that end by running a wire. I could run a DC splitter so that I push a button or step on a pedal, and I share that function for the grapple rotate and the open and close. Now this whole contraption, which I may change the cylinder configuration for greater lift, I'm not really sure, but this whole contraption is going to go onto a chassis that's made out of these axles. Yes, that is a pair of 5 tons with a walking beam off the back of a 5-ton M939 whatever type series military truck. I have 2 of these. I cut 2 5-ton trucks up. Actually, I only torched one of them. My friend John, who sold them to me, but he basically gave them to me. Phenomenal guy, good old buddy, known him a long time. Not going to say his full name, but if you were from Pirate 4x4, you would know him as Grendel. He's somewhat famous in certain circles. Famous for good reason. He's quite the fella. So these axles, it's going to be an 8x8. I think it's going to be a clam bunk. It's going to be a fixed cab, a large cab with a swivel seat. I've got most of it. I don't know if it's going to be the 6BT that I have. I think it's going to be a 6BT into Allison Auto, into a Funk 6-speed transfer case, into these axles. And I waffled between forwarder or skidder, but honestly, I'm always in low-grade wood. I'm never going to have a harvester. Maybe someday I'll have a feller buncher, but I'm never going to have a cut-to-length system. And that's what a forwarder belongs backing up a harvester. And I'm not in that kind of wood. I'm not in the area where where a harvester is even available. They're very unpopular here, and for good reason, because in low-grade wood, it's about maximum drags, and it's bucksaw country, knuckle boom and bucksaw. It just, anything else seems to fail, but that system always works. The backhoe attachment is going to be mounted up here. The grapple is going to reach out pretty far on that backhoe, and I believe there's going to be a clam bunk at the rear. This is not because I need the machine. It's not to make money. It's to spend time with my beloved son. I'm not sending a kid to school. I'm giving him a trade. I'm giving him all the trades. You build a machine like this, by the time you're done, you know all of them. You know about internal combustion. You know about fabrication. You know about design strength. You know about the automotive end of it. You know about 12-volt electrical. You know about hydraulics and fluid dynamics. By the time you're done building a machine like this, whether you like it or not, you freaking know a lot of stuff. And if you built it, you can obviously fix it and maintain it. And that is the challenge in forestry or any other heavy equipment trade today. The machinery is so freaking dang complicated, the people who own it can no longer service it. And the dealers are unobtainable dollar-wise. So I just decided I'm not going to send him down that trap. We're going to build a machine together. This is my final machine with him. This is my graduation present. This is my college degree for that boy. And I've been collecting for about maybe 8 years, 7 or 8 years, basically since I knew I was having a son. You know, we've built tractors, we've built this, we built that. And I just said, I'm going to build with my son his whole life. But before we build the final project, we're going to do another one. So these tires, which I've got 4 of them now, 2 of them were given to me, and 2 of them I just got on that trip up north, where John wouldn't take the money that I brought him. I went and I bought these tires. I managed to find them before I left corn country, because these are much easier to find up there in the corn belt, where everybody's running a grain head combine, you know, corn harvesters. I'm not in corn country, so there's a lot less of this kind of stuff down in here. Now, these are not skidder tires. They look like it. They're not forestry rated, and yeah, they're old. They're much lighter duty. These are 18.4-26s. That's a big 8-lug pattern. It will not fit a 1-ton, but it won't be very hard for me to make an adapter or to cut out the center and put it in a different rim face. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. This is going to be a 4-wheel skidder, articulated. It will be the practice machine that I build before we're going after the 8x8, because the 8x8 is a big commitment. It's a big investment. It's a lot of steel. It's a lot of high-dollar parts. It's a lot of big money in hoses, things like this. I believe that this is going to run on a pair of 14-bolt rears. I will build the frame. That's no big deal. The engine is questionable. Right here, I've got an OM617 Mercedes 5-cylinder inline turbo diesel. I love inline diesels. That motor with that 3-speed auto tranny is going to end up getting it's probably going to be this, because it'll run on motor oil. Filtered motor oil will run that motor, no problem. And if you need more power, you just turn up the boost. You just put a bigger turbo, put bigger sticks in it, turn up the boost. Those Mercedes drift guys, they make massive amount of power. That 3-speed auto tranny is going to probably be chain drive into. Now this is a tranny with an SAE2 bell housing. It's off of, it's out of a F700 or something like this. 2-wheel drive, 5-speed, 1 3/4 input shaft. I have got a clutch sitting on an SAE2 bell on my 6BT, which was also from an F700, different truck. And that clutch center will go on there and allow me to build a jack shaft sprocket rig. The drive line that I just showed you, the OM617 with the automatic, will sit above, and this will drop down lower so that it's kind of like a drop box. That'll also give me a ratio adjustment if I need to make one, but I highly doubt it. That drive shaft is going to go into a Ford NP205 divorce T case, which gives me front and rear, high and low, independent. You can twin stick that case. And on the back will probably be this winch, which is a 20-ton, I believe, off of a military, 5-ton mill truck, also from Grendel. The price that he gave it to me for was, you might as well call it a gift. Now the front of the machine is going to have the front end loader off of that Massey backhoe that was burnt that I bought. It's got an 80-something inch bucket, but I'll also end up doing probably a hydraulic grapple clamp or a rake bucket, something of that sort. And then I have this other cool thing over here, also from my friend Grendel for a song. This is a Challenger 4800 twin line wrecker body with the tin work torched off because it was rotted he bought a Cummins dually or something for the motor and tranny, and the rest of the truck was basically scrap. He didn't want to see this scrapped. He knew I would do something good with it if I lived long enough, which, fingers crossed. It will probably almost certainly be separated, mostly because the frame has got so much salt rust. It's got a bunch of salt jacking and it's been repaired. I wouldn't trust that to pick up as a wheel lift and not snap right there. So I'm fairly confident that this wheel lift will end up on my International 2-ton truck someday as an attachment that slides on top of my rear gooseneck receiver plate section somehow. Because that truck would be much more suited for a tow rig. There'd be no way it would wheelie, that kind of thing. And this goes up and down, and it telescopes. On a standard height truck, that twin line will go to 18 foot high, which is pretty sick. And they're both hydraulic winches, mile marker 10K hydraulic winches. They both got freewheel. I don't know, that might go on this skidder thing, it might not. I mean, you got to kind of start laying the stuff out to figure it out. So we got started with these tires. John the logger would not take the money for that grapple or the saw or the tape. He wouldn't take any money. He refused. I tried to take his family out to dinner. I tried to give it to his wife. They refused, which it's almost uncomfortable for me. I never ask for things. I really don't like that. So I had to do something. And I told him, I'm going to give your money away. I'm going to give it to the next guy I see. Like, please take this money. Nope. He refused it. So God bless you, John. Thank you so much. So I go down the road and I find these tires. I'm driving along and I see some old fat guy in a field flying a drone. And he's my last chance because sun's going down. It's like 8 o'clock almost, 7:30 or so. And I'm in corn country. I know that what I'm looking for is out there. And I just need to find somebody that knows somebody. I see this guy, I turn around, I go back, I pull in, hey man, I'm looking for some combine tires. He's like, so-and-so, give me your phone. I hand him the phone, put maps on satellite view. He drops a pin on the dude's backyard and says, there you go. He's like 8 miles away. I go to this guy's house. It's almost dark. He's 80-something with a cane. He's got combine tires everywhere, hundreds of them. He had like 20 dozers, not even lying, as old as cable operated. Like, he seriously had 15 to 20 dozers. He sells me these things for $200. I give him a pretty fat tip. Not my money, so I give him a pretty fat tip. We talk a while, great guy. And off I go. I spend the night in one state. The next morning I end up in another state, and I pass a guy, backpack, thumb out. He's got a sign that says food. And I've been hungry. I've been homeless. I've lived in a truck. But I'm thinking, man, that guy's pretty big. He's bigger than me. And he looks kind of dangerous. I rolled on by him, but then the spirit convicted me. He said, no, dude, that's the guy. I put him in front of you for a reason. He didn't say that audibly. Maybe it's my inner monologue, but there's a sensation. There's a definite communication when the spirit is trying to tell you something. And you don't have to hear the words. You have a knowledge, an instant transfer of knowledge when this happens. It doesn't happen too much, but it happens. So I pull into a church parking lot, coincidentally. I clear all the junk out of my passenger seat because I've been sleeping in the truck 2 days. I turn around. I ask him if he needs a ride. He says, yeah. I said, all right, jump in. Where are you headed? He says, I'm going east. So, well, I'm going southeast. You want to keep riding? He says, yeah. So he says, I'll go wherever the Lord takes me. I said, no kidding. He says, yeah, I'm a traveling preacher. So this guy had just set out 8 months ago with basically nothing, one backpack, and just went wherever the Spirit led him. So I drove with this guy for like 3 hours, and he stunk. You know, he was pretty rough shape. He'd been homeless, just from one state to the next, bouncing all over, just walking and preaching wherever. And he knew the word. Oh my God, he knew it way better than I do. His memorization skills were very good. And so I brought him grocery shopping. And I offered him a bunch more. He wouldn't take it. I offered him a sleeping bag. I don't know why he wouldn't take it, but he said, no, I'm good. Well, the following day, my friend Bob calls me up and wants me to do this big old job for him, this big cleanup job. And it's like a get it out of here, I don't care what you do with it kind of thing. And oh my God, it's almost all of the stuff that I'm missing. Like treasure, serious treasure. Okay, so there was that's just one more of these examples. When you're generous, it's like the very next day, the thing I'm looking for comes in. Now, my wife, yesterday, so we tithe, and you're not supposed, the Bible says don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, so you don't brag and be boastful. I'm not bragging. This is not about bragging. This is about spreading the gospel and helping you to be obedient to the message that's inside of it. But I'm going to give you the numbers so that you understand the scope that I'm talking about. My wife gave $200. That was our tithe amount based on earnings, income. Honestly, it's the minimum amount, maybe a tiny bit more than the minimum, because it's really all that we can afford. We're very low income. And somebody she knows at work, her husband had a pretty bad accident. He's been out of work. He's had surgeries or something. I don't know the guy. But they're falling behind on their bills. They're in bad shape. The woman was just venting to another Christian woman. She was not asking for a handout. She was just talking and getting something off her chest. My wife said, hey, I'd like to give our tithe to such and such family. I said, absolutely. Go ahead. Wherever we need it, wherever it's needed. Put it out where it's going to do the most good for the kingdom. She gave that money this morning. Today, there's a missed call on her phone. She checks it at lunch break. It's the workers' comp company. She got hurt at work, catching a person who was passing out. It tore her shoulder muscle. She had a pretty major surgery, and she's lost about 10% of her range of motion for life. It's considered a disability. She didn't ask for anything. She's not looking for a handout. She didn't quit work. She missed work. She missed a good chunk of it. It's just state law. Some settlement. $8,900. So this morning, give $200 to this lady. Today, this afternoon, $9,000. That's how fast God can take care of you when you put your trust and your faith in Him and when you're obedient. So, what does it cost you to be stingy? Let me tell you, I was stingy, and it cost me a lot. It's the kind of thing where I'm fearful to go back down that road now. Before you start doing it, you're afraid to give money. After you've experienced the benefits, you'll be afraid not to. And that is what this video that I tricked you into watching is really about. And for the 5 of you that have stayed through watching it, maybe God sent me to talk directly to you. Maybe it's you He wants to get the attention of. Consider it. Praise the Lord. Amen.